Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, Greg, wherever you are. Scott Luton and Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to our live stream. Greg, I kind of got those out of order today, didn't I?
Try it again.
Try to good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How about
There
that?
you go. Right. That
Uh,
always reminds me of the Truman Show when you do that. I love that.
it's kind of you know what? It's kind of representative. It has been a busy start to a busy week, hasn't it?
Yeah. And what an odd week. But in some ways, great. First of all, Scott, I know you celebrated this on LinkedIn. I did not
Mm.
get to, but I'm so excited that Coco Gauff won the US Open. Man, she was this close at Wimbledon, and I was just like, it's her time. I was a little concerned because she was going up against a big Russian, and I thought maybe she would get overpowered, but definitely did not. And by the way, that was a classic shot
Yes,
that ended on. And if you haven't seen it, go
Google
go
it.
get eyes on it at some point because that was just an awesome shot. Great tournament. She is a force to be reckoned with.
She's a dynamo.
19 years old.
Unbelievable. Dairy.
Yeah.
Well, from one tennis pro to another, because Greg White's also a tennis champion, but switching gears, because today, Greg, more on sports at 11. Today, Greg, we're talking about two of our favorite topics beyond new legends in sports. We're talking about entrepreneurs and final mile. So
Yeah.
we're going to be joined by a business leader from an award-winning organization that's certainly on the move. And amongst other things, Greg, we're going to be talking about how a mix of independent contractors and couriers is powerfully enabling flawless fulfillment and customer-centric delivery. And hey, say that three times fast. And
Right.
hey, we can continue the tennis theme because remember one Jim Courier, right? Jim Courier, a champion back from the 80s and
Look at
90s, if I'm not
you,
mistaken.
man, digging that out of the archive.
But Greg, great conversation teed up here today, right?
Yeah, unquestionably. I love this. Look, and if you saw my recent post on LinkedIn, you only have one job as a retailer, as any kind of supplier or a direct to consumer brand, and that is deliver.
That's right.
So, you make all these promises and you have all these hopes and dreams established in your sales and your marketing process, but the final mile is where it's proven. So, you've got to have every aspect of getting that product pleasingly into your customers' hands.
That's right.
Right? They have to be happy, right? Not just get a delivery, but they have to be happy about it.
Absolutely right. And while creating all of that, while creating opportunities for couriers across the country. So, folks, want to hear from you as well. We're going to welcome our guests in just a second. We want to hear from all of you. I see Maria Seaham is back from Delaware. Great to see you, Alan. You name it. We want to hear from you throughout the hour. So, with no further ado, I want to welcome in our featured guest here today, Sean Kelly, Principal Product Manager with Dispatch. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Doing really well. How are you?
Doing wonderful, wonderful.
Welcome aboard.
You're in beautiful Denver, which we established in the green room, and hopefully enjoying your journeys this week so far, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, the weather's starting to change, but it's still nice out.
I bet it's cooler there than it is here. But you know what? So, Greg and Sean, do y'all know what day it is today? It is National Video Game Day. So, Greg, as you know, and Sean, as you know now, my son Ben, he's ready to throw a parade. Huge video game fan. Fortnite, anything with Spider-Man and Mario, Super Mario or Luigi, both of them, some of his faves. As y'all know, video games have been around, believe it or not, since the 1950s. Some of the earliest were virtual tic-tac-toe. That sounds like a lot of fun. And something called Space War. Then came Pong and Atari. And then, of course, the Nintendo Entertainment System changed everything in the mid-'80s. So
Don't forget arcade games.
yeah, that's right, Greg.
Remember those days?
I do. I went through lots and lots of quarters. $5, Sean and Greg, at the local mall arcade. You feel like a king or queen, you know? So
Totally.
my question, Sean, my question for you and all the other folks out there, I'm going to ask Greg too. What has been, maybe as a kid, maybe as an adult, what's one of your favorite all-time video games, Sean?
Well, for me, I think it's probably Guitar Hero. I love that. When that game came out,
Ooh.
I just playing guitar with my friends in high school. Was never as good at real guitar as a Guitar Hero, but that game was a blast.
It was. Now, which do you remember any songs in particular that you slayed on Guitar Hero?
Well, I really preferred like Beatles Rock Band when that came out, like when we kind of got to that point. But I mean, I don't remember all the exact songs on regular Guitar Hero, but I remember it got really hard and had to use like the very bottom green button too. But yeah, that was an absolute blast.
All right. So to all of Sean's friends and family, if we can get any shots of him playing Guitar Hero and just
Oh,
ripping the
gosh.
guitar, please share. Okay,
Oh.
Greg. What about you, Greg?
Well, first of all, that is a great draw, Guitar Hero. That is fantastic. And Sean, it is sort of like putt-putt golf for golfers. You know, if you're a real golfer,
Totally.
you're terrible at putt-putt golf. Likewise, if you're a real guitar player, I mean, a really good guitar player, they really struggle to play guitar. So the better you are at air guitar, I think the
Okay.
better you are at Guitar Hero. But I'm going with an arcade game, one that I still have in my basement, Galaga. I got that for my wife for Christmas one year, and she actually said when she came down with tears in her eyes, "That's better than any jewelry."
Oh, I love it, Greg. I love that. I love that story too. So, Vicky, if you're listening somewhere, I love that. Okay. Well, Sean and Greg, we've got lots. Let's see. Brandon, State of Decay 2. Sorry, not sorry, he says. Mario Kart. Lindsay
Oh
says
yeah,
Mario Kart
boy.
all the way. Jose, Mortal Kombat. Amanda says, I'm not really into video games, but I used to play old school Nintendo with my brother all night long on Christmas Eve. And Jose, Galaga is the best. All right, good stuff there. All right, so we'll save the parades and everything else for National Video Game Day later. I want to get into. We got a lot of good stuff to get into with you today, Sean. Really, we've enjoyed our conversations with Dispatch. Of course, we had your colleague Alex with us a few weeks ago. But today, as we get started here, Greg and Sean, I want to do some more level setting. You know, we can't get enough context in these challenging times we live in. So I want to start, Sean, with this question: why does the final mile delivery space need to be improved and perhaps even more standardized?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I think the most important thing is to think about all the different stakeholders that operate within this environment, whether it's the shipper, the driver, the courier, the person receiving the information, and even like the technology platforms that people interact with. And so standardization really allows things to operate more efficiently, to have everyone seeing the same information and to have a transparency into what's expected from all parties.
Mm.
And so when we can do that, it'll lead to things like increased efficiencies, cost savings, increased customer satisfaction. But standardization is really about just transparency and everyone operating under the same expectations.
Mm. What a great starting point, Greg. Because with transparency, man, that just builds trust, and with trust, you can move mountains. But your thoughts, Greg, on where Sean started there?
Well, the standardization also leads to reliability, and that's, as we kind of opened with, that's so critical. But that transparency is something we all seek. We don't have to speculate on this like you do with sometimes with B2B supply chain concepts. Everyone experiences this. Every time you've ordered from anyone, one of the most important things to know is, one, do they have it, and two, when will it get here?
Mm.
So being able to understand that up front and then throughout the process, if it's a long process, is really critical. I wish we'd
Yeah,
way back when I was ordering stuff with box tops from Cheerios boxes. How long till that model airplane gets there?
Oh, that just took me back, Greg. I'm with you. Sean, you were about to add a comment there.
yeah, I think it's just really about like those expectations. Like we have those as consumers, but even like B2B deliveries, B2B final mile deliveries. If you could track your food coming to you, if you could track like a box you got like on online somewhere, you should be able to track like the resources you need to get a job done as well. And so I think just having like the end-to-end visibility and just information is going to help like a business be able to execute on like their customers' needs more too. As long as the information is there and shared,
Mm.
things can operate more effectively.
Yes. So we're in the know, and we can make decisions and
Correct.
timely decisions and better decisions. To your point, do business better. I want to switch gears here. So, of course, we're going to talk about the dispatch platform in a few minutes. And it sure sounds, by the way, it sure seems, Sean, you and your dispatch friends really enjoy working together. We've really noticed the culture, and it just attracts people to you, it seems. But I want to talk in particular about the drivers, right? This week, of course, which we're going to touch on later, we're celebrating drivers that they keep the world truly, not just in our country, around the world, they keep us all moving forward. So, Sean, you've got your finger on the pulse. So tell us, in general, from your perspective, what's important to drivers and couriers right now?
Yeah, so I think that what's important to drivers, there's a lot of things that are the same. Some are different depending on if like a full-time driver, part-time driver, if they are doing this like as their business or if they have multiple drivers, but some things are all pretty much shared. And they want to maximize their time and they want to maximize their assets they're utilizing to pick things up and deliver them. So as as an operator, as a driver, you want to be driving and you want to be making sure that when you're spending your time driving, that you're doing it as efficiently as possible. And that if you are going to dedicate 6 hours to driving, you want to have 6 hours of orders to fulfill. Um, but it's not really just about like making money, and it's about like using your time wisely. And I talk to our drivers all the time, and they just want to know like, is there going to be enough demand for me today? Is it going to be in the right area for me today? And how can they, maximize their time working and driving, so they can also maximize their time not working and
Right.
have time to like enjoy themselves. So that work-life balance is important to them. Safety is important to them. And if we think about it right now, like at a broader scale, it's a tough time to be a driver right now. Insurance is up, gas is up, rates are kind of down, like in the broader trucking market. So again, being able to make sure that you're maximizing your time and your asset as efficiently as possible are things that I hear every day talking to our drivers.
Sean, what a great list. Greg, out of all of the list of things that are important to drivers that Sean shared there, what sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, there are a lot that get expressed, right? Every driver wants to be treated with respect, which I can tell you can be a challenge at times. Um, every every driver, wants to have work-life balance, but the truth is they do this for economic benefit. And I think the thing that maximizes their economic benefit helps them feel respected, helps them appreciate that work-life balance, and as Sean said, it helps them believe that their time is being respected by being routed and managed wisely, right?
Mm.
To me, you can feel a lot more respected when your economic needs are met. And I mean, let's face it, it is their job and it is probably their livelihood in a lot of
Mm.
cases. So I think that's one of the things that really has to stand out. And it's also one of the most difficult to accomplish because, as we talked about, those routes could be anywhere, they could be everywhere, or they could be really, really organized and efficient for them as well. So I like this. I like the spirit. I still go back to this. I like the spirit of the way you guys approach this stuff, Sean, of, thinking about what makes this a beneficial relationship for everybody
Mm.
involved.
Totally. Yeah.
Well,
And go ahead, Scott.
good. No, Sean, please.
I was gonna say, like, for us, especially at Dispatch, like we're a very people first organizations of our core values, and drivers are a key person in that equation.
Right.
So you have to respect the drivers, and like to your point, make sure that if they're going to come to your platform, they're going to get filled up and they're going to get busy and they'll be paid fairly, paid quickly. Um, and those are just things that are everyone shares those wants as a driver.
Mm. Sean, well said. You and Greg both. And, you mentioned safety. Greg, as you know, for years now, we've been talking about driver safety,
Mm.
finding places to pull over and rest that's well lit, that's secure. I mean, these things are they're in the blind spot for so many consumers. So, Sean, I really liked your holistic approach to clearly the voice of the driver, which, again, y'all are really treated as a North Star, which is important.
Well, and I think when you're talking about last mile, you're talking about a whole different breadth of security, right?
Mm.
I mean, because it could be you're in the last mile. You could be on dirt roads 1 minute, right? And unimproved roads another minute, and paved roads another minute, in good areas, in bad areas, in industrial areas, in residential areas, in high traffic areas.
Mm.
all of which can create risk for these drivers. So understanding that and managing to that is critical. Ages ago, to eliminate risk, one company made only right turns. And I mean that I think that there's simple things you can do, but the world, especially for final mile, is so much more complex now.
Excellent point, Greg, in context. Again, the world can't get enough context these days in global supply chain for sure, Sean and Greg. So let's do this. I want to, as we continue to represent and amplify the voice of the driver, so to speak. So when it comes to picking a load board or a platform, Sean, what are drivers looking for there?
Yeah, so I think that when it comes to load board, marketplace, a gig app, whatever it is that someone's going to go to find work, that they're going there to find work that's relevant to them, that is going to meet their needs, right? There's different marketplaces or load boards or apps to use from final mile or over the road. There's the traditional load boards where you kind of post the load and call and negotiate for the rate, and then do a lot of things kind of off platform. But I think that what's important to them is it's easy to use technology, that it's the right type of freight or delivery profile for them based on where they are, the timeframes, the type of vehicle they use, whether they have a cargo van or a box truck, or even just like their own personal car.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to need to fit their needs. And people want to get paid fairly and quickly, and that if they go to a place to get work, that there's actually work for them there to take. So I think that just understanding what it is you're looking for, and then when you go to these platforms, like, do they meet your needs to be able to keep you busy and kind of get those driver expectations we talked about? Are you going to come there and make money, or are you going to come to maybe an empty marketplace with like ghost orders or something,
Right.
Casper orders. Well, so Greg, I'm gonna get your comments here, but one of the things I heard Sean speak to there is the load board of the platform has got to be really effective at the matchmaking that goes on. But your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah. Well, I may or may not have invested in a few supply chain tech companies over the years, and whenever you have a marketplace solution, that's what I would call it. Whenever you have a marketplace solution like this, it's incredibly critical and very difficult to maintain that balance of enough drivers to bring the shippers, and enough shippers to bring the drivers. And you have to get to kind of a critical mass relatively quickly, or your entire future as a marketplace is at risk. So if you can maintain that balance early on, obviously you can get to the kind of volume and capacity that Sean and his team have. So, but I mean, I don't want to understate how hard that is to do, and it takes a very, very conscious effort to maintain that balance in the early years. But once you get to that level, it's incredibly powerful for both parties, right?
Yep. Well said. And Sean, I'm gonna give you the last word, and I'm gonna bring in some folks from the audience before we move on. Any final as we talk about the voice of the drivers, and you really laid a lot of stuff out there, Sean. Any final word you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially like in this week or this time, is to realize that these are people running a business. They have the same needs that you would. When you want to be safe, you want to be paid fairly, you want to maximize your time, and you want to be able to operate in an environment to where the services that you have to offer are being utilized in a way that's going to make sense for you.
Yeah. Well said. All right. So before we move on, we're about to dive into more about dispatch and some of the cool things you are up to. Memory, Greg. Memory is stuck in traffic from conference, and she wants our help to keep her from losing it. So I love that, Memory. Hope
it's funny that we're talking about final mile, isn't it, Memory?
It is.
I hope we're not on the monitor in her car,
Right.
just over the radio. Do we even call it a radio anymore?
iPhone. We'll call
audio only.
There you go.
Memory.
Him says, I shadowed a dispatch for a day as a student in Charleston, and wow, is that high tempo, and the drivers are funny. Hey, we appreciate good senses of humor for sure. And hey, PB, Peter Boley all night and all day. Great to have you back. Hope this finds you well. We know that you continue to do big things across global supply chain. All right. So Greg and Sean really enjoy. we don't have enough shows. The industry doesn't have enough conversations focused on drivers of all sorts in a holistic manner, even though they form the core of supply chain. It's so interesting. But let's talk about what dispatch does. So this is important context. So in a nutshell, what does your organization do?
Right. So Dispatch, we operate on-demand final mile delivery marketplace for the most part. So you have shippers who will post an order, and then we have a network of drivers and courier partners to fulfill those orders. We operate all over North America or all over the US in about 75 plus markets. And so it's really focused on that final mile B2B delivery for primarily B2B, so businesses to businesses, but also B2B to C environments. And so the way our platform operates is that orders come in to our network, right? Whether it's a car to a cargo van to a box truck, we will then find the best fit driver or courier for that order, offer it to them. They'll pick it up, they'll deliver it, and they'll get paid. And so historically, Dispatch operated with just independent contractors, like one-to-one. So maybe I have a cargo van in Denver.
Right.
I can come get on the platform, and if there's cargo van orders in Denver, I'd be able to leverage the Dispatch app, get all the details I need on that app from pickup, delivery, timeframes, all the information they need. They bring it to the destination, they drop it off, they take a photo of it, job's done. So what we are doing now is that we are opening up the platform to have like an independent contractor could then grow their business by hiring more drivers. And so, for example, we have our independent contractor network, then we have like our courier and carrier network. And so we've had drivers that work with us for years. And so now as a driver, let's say I'm in Denver, but I have drivers that are maybe in Phoenix that work for my company. I can now get them orders in Phoenix and be able to grow my business using Dispatch's platform, but not having to physically actually be there. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
Sean, I appreciate that. And Greg, going to bring you in here. Man, if it works that easy, that's just almost too good to be true. Greg, your comments there on as Sean kind of walks us through how it works.
Yeah, well, I'd love to open with a question. So to be clear, you not only put shippers and delivery companies or couriers together, right? Or even individuals, but also facilitate them to grow their staff either what do I want to say, as employees or as contractors to help expand their own reach?
Totally. Yeah. And
Wow.
so you can come to Dispatch as just a one, like you have a cargo van or you have a car, right? If maybe you're using another delivery app to make like food deliveries, you just have a car. You can come to our platform and find work. If you have a company with like 3 box trucks, 2 cargo vans, and a pickup truck, you can also come to our platform. And so going from having, 1 vehicle to having 10, right? It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But Dispatch is a platform that you can use to expand your own business, your own footprint, just by going from an IC to have 1 cargo van and then expanding from there. So we offer that up to our drivers. We want to empower our drivers to be able to work with Dispatch and then grow their company and hire other people to work for them.
Greg,
so no joke. I did not know that. I mean, I had one of those moments, Scott. Does anyone else know about this? I mean, that is such a genius tie-in, right? And I think what this really tells me is your focus is on, as you said, it's in the title of the show, right? It really is more than just the technology to put these companies together. It is to allow them to expand their businesses, both the shippers and the carriers, and that facilitation, aside from just the load board marketplace, right? But that facilitation is really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
unlike other platforms that could be like a load board or whatever, like our orders come to us and the shipper is placing their trust in us to get this fulfilled, right? So any order that comes into our platform, it's not like a bid on a thing. We offer the drivers transparent and fair pay for those orders that we have for them. And then we do our best to route and optimize them and maximize their time.
Right.
Wow.
On the other side of that, like if you're like an established courier company in a certain market, you can also come and work with us and take orders as well. And I talk to a bunch of couriers, every day as we're working on these products, and they all tell me the same thing. It's like no one has 100% supply and demand. There's sometimes when these couriers they say, Sean, I have more orders than drivers today, or I'll have more drivers than orders. And
Right.
so we're trying to create this mutually beneficial platform for them to where if you're a courier, you can come to us and get some of our demand and keep your drivers busy. If you have an order to fulfill for your customer, maybe it's in a network that you don't operate in, or someone calls out sick, you could pass us orders and have them be fulfilled by our drivers.
Yeah. So I want to spike the football on two things here, because you've touched on a couple of things. I want to kind of back up and make sure we amplify these points, because you're talking really one of the major themes here today has been how you and your team empower drivers, and as Greg pointed out, to grow and expand their footprint. Anything before we get into eliminate all the worrying that goes on in terms of making sure you get all the customers covered and the orders covered, anything else you want to touch on in terms of how you truly empower drivers to grow their business and grow a successful business? Anything else you want to add there, Sean?
Yeah, I think, and we have like some case studies on this that we'll be sharing out as well. But like I said, like you can start with dispatch with just one vehicle, right? And as we, start to provide you enough value to hire additional drivers, you can then leverage our app, right? I'm Sean, I'm a driver. I'm going to use a dispatch app to take orders. And then I can also use dispatch's platform to get orders for my other drivers and assign those to them.
Real orders, not ghost orders, right?
Real orders, real demand that, depending on the market and the type of vehicle that you have, we can keep these drivers busy and help them. There can't be two of you, right? If you're a cargo van driver and you only have one van, you can only do so much. But then if you're able to hire more people, we can get you more income to help, scale up your business.
All right, Greg, we're signing up today. You ready to do? Too bad we just got rid of our van, man.
Do you have a route where I could leave Atlanta and stop several places on the way to Savannah or Hilton Head? Yes, absolutely.
Son,
right?
We may.
I would do it just for gas money.
Yeah, we do operate in those markets. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and
really,
that's pretty cool. And because Sean, you mentioned 75, 76 different markets. Do you get a chance to get out there and visit a lot of those? Is that part of what you do?
Well, I definitely, before I started working dispatch, I downloaded the app and did some deliveries myself to kind of see what it's all about.
Really?
Yeah. So that was good. But over like the past 10 years, I've definitely been inside of every kind of different delivery vehicle, whether it's like a full truckload driving around New York doing drop-offs, or, sitting in the back of a truck while it's getting unloaded. I haven't gone out as much outside of Denver, but I definitely keep a strong pulse on like our drivers in our different markets to make sure that what is they're doing is actually achievable.
Yep.
And that the physical environment they're working in is a safe one. So I think it's super important, like, to get in the driver's shoes and actually do the job that they do, as you're building technology for them.
Sean,
you have to, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought there.
I'm gonna say, yeah. I think it's super important to become like the driver and to go do the work that they do, because I build technology like for them and with them. But until you're actually doing their job, you can't fully appreciate all that goes into it.
Greg, that what Sean just said over the last 2 minutes, especially the fact that he signed up and made deliveries, before his current role, and how really putting on the eyes and ears of the driver as you're building technology for drivers. That's my favorite part of the interview thus far. But your thoughts, Greg, before we talk about some of the things.
Yeah. It's funny because we've talked to your colleagues before, Sean, right? And it's interesting kind of the focuses that you all have, right? I mean, we talked about transparency and those sorts of things, but I think what's interesting about your take on this is the real focus on the drivers, but when you put it all together, it's a really interesting comparison of the transparency, which enables the drivers to have a better experience, along with all these other things that you've mentioned. And it's super powerful. I'm curious. I'm going to go off script here,
Okay.
Sean.
Cool.
So prepare
Yeah.
yourself.
I'm good.
I'm curious, like we're on script. But have you seen we predicted, lots of people have predicted more and more business moving to what I don't know what to call it other than niche or smaller kind of last mile drivers. And we predicted that would be the case. Are you seeing the market moving that direction just because of how much is getting delivered to homes these days?
I mean, yeah, like there's
Or
trucking
B2B, right?
companies. Yeah, there's trucking companies. Like we're not like a traditional like full truckload marketplace or anything like that. We're definitely like into the
Right.
smaller vehicle types. Like box trucks are the biggest that we go right now. But we have like trucking companies who come to dispatch to sign up to start doing more of those intra market deliveries. So yeah, to answer your question, like there is like a migration from like maybe over the road trucking, like long haul, to more localized deliveries, just depending on what's going to make sense for that driver or that company.
Yep. Speaking of box trucks, Greg, I shared this with you. Sean hadn't shared this with you. I drove a box truck 2 weeks ago from Atlanta to Aiken, South Carolina, and it taught me to appreciate a cruise control more than any lesson in my life. I went the cheap route, evidently, and did not have a cruise control, and I needed a bigger engine. But we'll save that story for another day. I want to talk, Sean. How does dispatch eliminate, there's a ton of worrying out there to make sure you've got what you need, you've got the drivers you need to cover not just one or two, but all of your customer orders. So Sean, how does your platform ensure that worry is unfounded?
Yeah, so this is like the other side of like the equation for us, to where when we work with like courier trucking companies, like we want to be a, a demand driver for them, right? But also to be a supply driver for them. So there's an example. There's a courier that's actually based in Denver, who they had a ton of orders for their customer who has like a tire shop around town, and so they had 5 drivers, right? But they had like 20 to 30 different orders that day. So they'd cover some of them with their own assets, and then the ones they couldn't or that weren't like as efficient for them, they'll pass those to us, and then we'll cover those with our drivers. So we want to create like a closed loop to where if you need more demand, come to us. If you have like overflow shipments, pass them to us and we'll help you get them fulfilled. So we want to create that kind of like closed loop to where we're both a supply provider and a demand driver for our partners.
I like it. Dynamic demand enablement. Greg, comment on what you heard there and how we can eliminate all that worrying.
Well, I think we've covered that pretty efficiently, haven't we? I mean, and efficiency is the key, right? I mean, making it a viable business for these small couriers, all the way to fully established courier companies, but also helping these shippers get their get their goods to where they need them to be. I just think there's just so much opportunity now, because especially in the times that we're having, and we're going to see a lot more people become entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
I mean, we hear
Yeah,
about it every day. I just heard that Truist, the third biggest bank in the States, is going to lay off a huge portion of their. Those people are going to become entrepreneurs. So having tools like this, I wanted to say vehicles. You don't provide the actual vehicles, Sean, do you? I'm kidding. I know you don't. Or do you?
we don't have any assets anymore. We did. I think that
Not
when
yet.
Dispatch
Right?
started, they had their own cargo vans. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it's important to have these kind of enablement platforms as entrepreneurs can start their businesses or evolve their businesses. And I think there's an aspect of this that is really, really powerful for entrepreneurs. I'm just saying,
Totally.
Sean, if you guys wanted to connect people with available cargo vehicles,
There
Yeah.
you
And
go.
like,
you never know. I'm
and
sure
like,
you haven't thought of that.
no, but like this, like our, what dispatch is trying to do is to really create those efficiencies throughout the local deliveries, right? So we obviously want to fulfill our shippers' orders, right? But then we want to focus on like the quality of service to connect those to whether it's an independent contractor or a courier partner to make sure that we're getting the right orders to the right person at the right
Yep.
time, so that the shipper's happy, their order is getting picked up and delivered on time. We can match the drivers with an efficient route to potentially bundle them orders and create, a good use of their time so they can stay full, get deliveries done, and get paid. But then we also want to tap into like the courier network so that we can expand our footprint and also help them expand theirs.
Everybody can win for sure. And Tomcat asked a great question because I think I know the answer, but Sean, I'm gonna let you answer because you're taking new drivers all the time, right, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to sign up. If you are an independent contractor, we have a path for that. If you're like a courier company with two or more drivers, there's a path for that. So you just come in, tell us where you work, kind of vehicles you have, and we'll get you onto the platform and try to start driving some demand your way.
Man, bada bada bing, bada bada boom. It's,
I
it's
mean, it
done.
is. I
Just
mean,
that easy. I
it
love it.
is, right?
Yeah. No
And when you
wonder.
need to expand, there's a way to do that as well. I mean, if you want to expand outside markets or even within your markets, I'm sure, right?
Totally.
All right. No wonder y'all are growing left and right. And I want to say too, especially when because we're about to talk about the National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, which is this week. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But the culture that we've observed, I mean, it seems like y'all are really welcoming, easy to work with, inclusive. Want to protect and help these drivers grow have good business that matches their operations and their footprint and grow that good business. I love that. All right. Before I switch gears, I've got a kindred spirit here in the audience that feels my pain on my story. I'll talk about a minute
Yeah, I
ago.
saw that.
Peter says, "Hey, I know the feeling. Moved my buddy from Montreal to Halifax with a U-Haul rental truck, 13 hours straight. Easy to long haul drive, but yeah, pain in the leg without cruise control." Peter, man, I am with you. And I know that might be a first world complaint or problem, but man, my right leg was killing me when I pulled up. Okay. So I want to, listen to me complaining about a 2.5 hour trip, with little traffic and an easy, an easy move. And that's part of the blind spot is so many consumers, even practitioners have around what drivers fight through day in and day out. Right. So I want to, before we get into making sure folks can connect with Sean and connect with these resources and stuff, answering Tomcat's question a little bit more. I always think of Top Gun when I hear a Tomcat, that good old F-14. But National Truck Driver Appreciation Week 2023, in your view, Sean, and clearly you've got your finger on the pulse. You're very passionate about serving the driver community and helping them grow their business and be appreciated. Why, beyond all of that, why is it important that we set this week aside and recognize these folks that make global supply chains happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to appreciate them every day, kind of like Mother's Day. You don't really love her on Mother's Day, but to your point, I think that maybe in 2020, people finally started to appreciate, like, during the pandemic, that these are essential
Mhm.
workers, and that without them, we wouldn't have food, we wouldn't have electricity, anything that's actually moving from point A to point B. Um, and I think it's important to appreciate, maybe not even just the truck drivers, of course, truck drivers, but a cargo van driver, a car driver, like anyone who's actually getting behind the wheel and
Yeah.
making deliveries happen is important to appreciate. And I mean, to your point, like, one of the most stressful things that I do in my life is drive. It's like whether if I'm trying to find parking or like changing lanes, and so it's important to appreciate, like, when you're driving next to these trucks, like on the freeway or something, like, slow down, like, let them over, like, there's a person in there, right? So I think it's important to appreciate them, not just this week but always. And I do appreciate the theme this week, like miles of gratitude. It's like it's important to appreciate people who are doing something that's going to help you live your life. And obviously people say it's the backbone of the economy, and it's totally true. And so just like, I think taking a moment, appreciating there's someone in that vehicle, and whether you're getting something delivered to your door, like an extra thank you. If you're driving on the highway, slow down. Right. I think it's an important week, and I've definitely spent a lot of time like even in the big 53-foot trucks, like driving along with them. It's intense, it's like it's a really,
Mhm.
really intense job. And so again, it's important to me because I work with these people every day,
Mm.
and I have like a really close relationship with a lot of them. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
And yeah, thank you, Sean. I really appreciate that take, and more folks need to hear that take and act on that take, right? Greg, I want to get you to comment before we go any further.
I'm going to start this week. I mean, I do have a long highway drive, but between a couple places that I try not to do fairly frequently. Also, try not to do when I'm hangry. But I mean, I get it, and I think I'm going to run your comment here on loop while I'm driving, because it can be hard to do, and you have to recognize that they're out there in some way for you, right? To deliver something that's going to you or somebody like you or whatever, right? There is a person at every step of every sale, delivery, shipment, all of
Totally.
that. So I think you have to recognize that.
Yep.
You,
Well
you,
said.
you. It's all about you, except that to get it to you, it has to also be about them.
Right.
Yeah, I think the best way to show gratitude is by actually like doing something that's like gracious. Showing appreciation is one thing, but like doing an act that contributes to that is another thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well said.
I think they might settle in some cases just for people not to like yell at them through the car window while they're driving down the road. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
a
but
little nice goes a long way for sure.
yeah, it does.
Well,
You're right. And if you have kids in the car, they love that. They love it,
Yeah,
and I love it.
yeah,
So
I love
well,
it too.
beyond all of this, which I think is very important, I should add, the intangibles of gratitude. What's I believe is equally, if not more important, is what you were talking about earlier, Sean, which is you're focused and you're passionate about growing good business for all of these drivers. And that is such a, and it sounds like, and I'm going to sign up. I want to give it a try because it sounds like it's as easy as it maybe should be and should have been for years. So let's do this. First off, Sean, I got a couple things. Y'all got some resources we're going to share with folks in just a second. You've got something coming out this week, which is we'll shed more details on. I'll call it the power of dispatch. But first off, Sean, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Sean Kelly. I think there's about 10,000 of me out there, but
Okay.
Sean Kelly Dispatch, pretty common name, Sean Kelly. But yeah, then I'm just Sean.Kelly at dispatchit.com. Yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone about anything, anytime, especially we talked about today.
Well,
Yeah,
clearly, though, I mean, we're kind of kidding here, but you are very, I mean, you're from the green room, pre-show, as Greg and I picked up on our earlier calls last couple of weeks. This is something that is in your bones. You're passionate about serving this driver ecosystem. And I think that is the really good news to me here today, because that ecosystem needs advocates like you that's looking out for them and not trying to take advantage of them, which has been done time and time and time again. Okay, so we've got resources. We love resources. First off, yes, you can connect with Sean there. You're one click away from connecting with at least one of the 10,000 Sean Kellys
yeah,
that Sean put out there. But you got this blog. Let's see, 4 benefits of being a courier partner with Dispatch. I bet we covered at least 3 of them today.
totally.
And
Yeah,
right. Let's see here. We've got what I'll call a resource landing page on becoming a courier today. And I bet that will go to Tom Cat's question, right? Where that's where you can get involved and basically join the family. Is that right, Sean?
yep, absolutely. And yeah, there's a lot of other resources on there too, and like testimonials from some of our drivers who became couriers and couriers who have joined our network, just to help with some extra demand, right? So it's like there's there's probably a place for you at Dispatch,
Yeah.
depending on what you're looking for.
Yep. Love that. And of course, there's no guarantees in life, right? There's no guarantees in life. So there probably is a place, and there's
Probably.
certainly,
Yeah.
certainly lots of opportunity, undeniably. All right. And then Greg, we got the goods. And I checked with Sean, double checked with Sean that we're not going to get in trouble with letting the cat out of the bag. But there's a case study coming out this week that focuses, I think, Sean, on dispatches, good work and relationship and partnership with point-to-point logistics out of Houston. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of our drivers out there, we just did a case study with him. He's been a dispatch driver since I think like September of 2022. He also has a number of drivers that he works with in Austin and Dallas, and so now there's pretty much will be a case study articulating what we talked about today in these different use cases around. You start as a driver, you hire some more people, and then you can start to take orders in places where you're not physically there.
Okay.
With your other drivers, yeah.
So can they get that from you, or do they? I mean, when that's available, how would you like?
It should be available this week.
How would you like to get that to me, Sean? Is mostly that's my.
I'll send it to you. It'll be on our website. We could share it on LinkedIn. We'll make sure it's available.
Okay.
Awesome. My hunch is that folks out there that are listening or watching this, if you connect with Sean, I bet Sean will be throwing out there in the LinkedIn channel, right? Sean, is
totally
that fair? Okay.
Absolutely.
Let me back up for a second, though.
Awesome.
I'm refraining from doing the dad joke, the beat back up. I've there's been opportunities for that a couple times through the hour.
But in the end, you didn't refrain.
That's right. I did. I guess I didn't. All right. But this, we've talked a lot about the benefits of becoming a courier partner with dispatch throughout the hour. But is there one maybe, Sean, in that blog article, the 4 benefits of being a partner? Is there one maybe we didn't play up enough that you think more folks should know about, or I guess maybe why should folks check that article out? Maybe.
I mean, I think that the most important thing is that like we want to be both a provider of demand to courier companies and also provider of supply. To where, like I said earlier, like it's hard to maintain 100% supply and demand every single day with your operation when you have multiple drivers, multiple vehicles. And so working with dispatch will help you to get that driver maybe a few more orders on their already existing route, because we can match them with orders.
Yep.
And then if someone is potentially not available, or you don't want to say no to your customer, that you can then utilize our network of drivers to get those fulfilled. So that's probably the most important takeaway here, is that we just don't want you to come post your trucks on our load board. We want you to come to us to get actual orders and trust us to help you fulfill your overflow orders.
Wonderful. Love that, Sean. Okay. So before we sign off here today, Greg, we've covered a lot of ground. Clearly, Greg has become a fan, Sean. You can see the lights in his eyes.
You probably watch me clicking on some of this stuff to save it for reading later.
So, Greg,
totally.
Out of all that we covered, and we got resources out there, but of all that we've covered here with Sean, with dispatch, what is one of your favorite things that we talked about and Sean shared here today, Greg?
I just love the spirit of entrepreneur enablement, right? I mean, it's so core to what they do. It's not that they built a technology, right? They were not a hammer looking for a nail. Maybe initially they were a carrier, but this is obviously a company that's pivoted to non-asset and are enabling not just connections, but actual entrepreneurs. And so that sort of North Star of enabling these entrepreneurs to build their businesses and other entrepreneurs to fulfill their orders, by taking that approach, they're filling in those logical things that enable those people. So they're creating a stickiness that is greater than the load board, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is you can remain on the platform, and it can help you grow, not just by getting more loads, but expanding where you provide services, right? I bet there's going to be some element of that in this coming case study for point to point, right?
Yep.
Totally.
So I'm really looking forward to reading that, because I think that is a really very unique approach to tackling this business problem, is tackle the highest level problem you can, and then fill in those services and capabilities and capacities that you have to meet that much, much higher goal, rather than taking such a tactical approach as just finding places, finding orders, and then finding people to carry them. So
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, Sean, really appreciate your time here today. Appreciate again what you are doing at Dispatch. Congrats on all the growth and the accolades that comes, including what we touched on a couple weeks ago with Alex, and that's being a really cool place, well recognized by third parties, place to work. We see that in the interactions. So congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll appreciate you carving some time out, Sean, to speak with us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I really appreciate your time too.
All right. So, Greg, always a pleasure knocking this out with you. Of course, Greg, we've been talking with Sean Kelly, Principal Product Manager with Dispatch. Folks, connect with Sean. Check out those resources. Don't take our word for it. Check out the 4 benefits of being a courier partner with Dispatch and how easy it is to become a courier today with the company. And stay tuned for that case study coming out. Thanks, all of y'all, for coming out in the comments. Some of the questions we couldn't get to. Really appreciate that. Whatever you do, folks, hey, you got to be like Sean Kelly, man. Be passionate about the folks making it happen, whether they're drivers, whether they're frontline workforce members, machine operators, you name it. That's what we need more of. So find something that Sean or Greg shared here today. Put it in action. Deeds, not words. That's what it's all about. And on behalf of our entire team here, Scott Luton, challenging you, do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.